Alright guys, this is a video that you've been asking me to do, and today we're going to talk about anosmia. What is anosmia? Or also could be known as olfactory fatigue, and even known as nose blindness. So these are questions that I've been asked quite frequently in comments on the channel or on emails that I've received, and I thought today I'll do a video about my experiences with anosmia, olfactory fatigue, nose blindness, and also notes that I'm sensitive to and then notes that I'm not sensitive to at all. So we're going to learn all of this coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today we're going to talk about all these different topics, and this is going to be a longer than normal video. But we have a lot of time these days. If you don't have the time, then skip ahead to the next video. But we're going to do all that coming right up. But if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So once again, I'm skipping my last olfactory groups video for next week. We'll finish that finally next week, and that particular video is the last remaining olfactory group that I haven't spoken about or done a video about. But if you have any questions or anything that you want me to cover on a video, you can always send me those questions to LFSGQuestions@gmail.com, and as soon as I get to it, and if I find that it's something I can do a video about, I will do it. Some take longer than others, of course, but like this one was brewing for a while, and I finally got the chance to do a little research and take notes down about my own experiences, and here we are doing it. So LFSGQuestions@gmail.com is the email address you can email me to. And let's go on. What is anosmia? So anosmia and olfactory fatigue and nose blindness, I guess, all kind of go hand in hand. But really though, anosmia means the complete loss of sense of smell or the partial loss of sense of smell. So that's basically anosmia. So sometimes you can become anosmic to certain smells. Sometimes you're permanently anosmic to it, and sometimes you actually train your nose to not be anosmic to it. For example, one of the fragrances that I speak a lot about that I never smelled before when I first started wearing it is Molecule 1. So I suppose since this is only one note, it's ISOE Super and smells like a cedar sandalwood combo, I guess I was anosmic to this particular note. Or maybe I was just nose blind to it. But eventually I grew, and eventually I started wearing it and wearing it, and one day it was so strong that I thought, wow, this is actually not what I remember smelling, because I used to not smell anything, and now I can smell a lot. I don't know if that's necessarily a thing with these synthetic molecules, but it's definitely happened with this one. And another one that happened with, as far as eccentric molecules goes, is Javanol. Similar to Molecule 1, Molecule 4, I was nose blind to it. I was anosmic to it. I couldn't smell anything. But eventually I kept wearing it, and it is really strong. I mean, I'm shaking this around. I haven't even sprayed it, and I can smell this now. And when I first picked it up, I couldn't. This one doesn't smell as strong as this one, though. This is the Javanol one, which smells like a really creamy, milky sandalwood Molecule 4. So it's stronger than Molecule 1's ISOE Super. So those are some of the notes that I was very anosmic to, or I had olfactory fatigue. I guess I wasn't really having an olfactory fatigue with those because I had never smelled them before, or as a specific note on its own. Probably I was smelling them in different fragrances, because those are used in different fragrances, mostly in the base notes. But I guess I had nose blindness to them, or I was just anosmic to them. So a couple of things about anosmia. Sometimes you get anosmic or get nose blindness, or even actually should be known as olfactory fatigue, to some fragrances that you wear. If you wear it constantly, day in, day out, you're spraying it, then you're actually at a place where you're actually spraying more because you're not smelling it as strong. And sometimes people confuse this particular scenario to reformulation. I guess sometimes they wear a fragrance so much that they went and bought another bottle of it because their current bottle is running out, and when they get the new bottle, it's like, whoa, this fragrance is so much weaker. Has it been reformulated? So sometimes fragrances don't get reformulated. They do a lot, especially with the designers, because they're always tweaking them minutely. But sometimes it's not been reformulated, and you're acting like, or anybody could be acting like, my God, this fragrance doesn't last as long, I can't smell it, yada yada. And that could be because of olfactory fatigue. And olfactory fatigue does happen. I've experienced it. Fragrances just don't smell like they used to because I'm just so used to it. My nose is just shot and I need a break. So it's a good idea to sometimes, if you're experiencing something like that, when you get a fragrance and it smells weaker than it used to, just like weeks before that you wore the previous bottle you had, it's a good idea to actually take a break for a week and kind of like get your nose palate to kind of like get back on track, start smelling things again the way it should be. Because there's some people out there that are very sensitive to fragrances, like so overly sensitive, like they react very oddly to someone that's wearing very, very strong fragrance. Me, I wear a lot of strong fragrances, but those people that don't wear fragrances a lot, and they're very sensitive to the smells, and I think it's because of that some people react very negatively to some people's perfumes, because their nose is not used to any perfumes. They wear no scent whatsoever, and they're basically smelling just, natural world of smells. And so a perfume can come off very, very strong for someone that doesn't really have a developed smell palette of perfumes, I guess, if that's a right thing to do. So if your nose is at a place where it's tired and you've kind of burned it out, give it a break, give it some time, maybe actually train it out there where you can do nothing but smell fresh air, maybe even like a sea, because I feel like the sea is a good place for you to cleanse your palate and your nose palate, of course, and let it smell some natural scents, so that you can kind of come back to wearing the perfumes like a week later that you used to, and you would get back on track. So that's one thing you could do when you have olfactory fatigue. I experience that once in a while. I have to rest my nose. I don't like to rest my nose though, because I love my perfumes, but sometimes you need that to take that break. I mean, things will smell so much stronger if you give your nose like a break for 2 weeks or something, really, really strong. You'd be wondering, wow, I guess I need this a little more. But going back to the anosmia thing, a couple other things is I get, I haven't gotten cold this year, thankfully, especially since what's going on out there. But one of the things I've heard with this pandemic is that some people develop a loss of taste, a sense of taste, and a sense of smell. So that's one of the things that does happen with colds and flus once in a while. When I had a cold in the past, not frequently, but every several years, I lose my sense of smell or taste. So that's one of the reasons why people get anosmic, because I wasn't tasting anything. And I think taste and smell are hand in hand, because I drink a lot of red wine and I feel like most of it is smell. I'm just tasting the smell of it. So I feel like they go hand in hand. So yes, you can lose your sense of smell along with your sense of taste, and then you're anosmic to certain things at that time. But then you get back on track after you're done with your illness and you're not, flu. You don't have the flu symptoms anymore. Although I feel like when you have a flu or something, the loss of sense of smell and loss of sense of taste are towards the end. So, and I hear that this current virus that's running around, people have reported that they have lost their sense of taste and smell. So they've become anosmic in general. They can't smell anything. So that's one of the causes of being anosmic, is like a flu bug or something. So there's anosmia that's permanent, and that's because more deeper issues with something within you, or it's temporary, and the flu and the cold is more of a temporary anosmia. So we've discussed olfactory fatigue, and I think all of us probably have olfactory fatigue at one point or another, and the best way, as I said, is to give your nose a break for a while. Now comes some items about sensitivity and not being sensitive. So there are certain things that I'm so sensitive to, I can pick out, and then there's some things that I'm not sensitive to and I can't pick out. And a lot of times a fragrance that's done very well, I can pick out certain notes, and especially the ones that I'm sensitive to, whereas the fragrances that are not made craftily well, like they're not perfectly made, it's really kind of sometimes hard to pick out, and I get the notes get hidden in there, like and then if I'm not sensitive to those notes, I can't distinguish them. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but one of the things that I'm extremely sensitive to, like overly sensitive, is cologne, this synthetic note. Here we go with synthetic notes again. I was thinking maybe Eccentric Molecules will do a whole fragrance on this cologne note, which I will skip. Now, unless it's going to be one that I really enjoy, but this note I am so sensitive to. I can smell it a mile away, and it really does turn my stomach. It smells really strong, and sometimes some fragrances have an overabundance of cologne, and it's like, whoa, it's cologne. Some fragrances have a little amount to give you that kind of watermelony kind of aquatic, because it's supposed to smell like the sea breeze, marine and marine notes and all that good stuff. It was apparently developed in the 50s, and it started becoming very popular in the late 80s and early 90s, of course, the aquatic fragrance movement. And so people tend to, the brands decided to use them. And look, now we have so many aquatic fragrances out there, but I'm so sensitive to it that as soon as I can smell it, I'm like, whoa, this is extremely strong. So you guys probably have things or notes that you're sensitive to that you react very negatively to, and sometimes very positively to. Some notes that I'm very sensitive to that I react very positively to is patchouli, for one. I love this note. It smells fantastic, and I really want to smell it. It's just a very, very wonderful smell. Now, you guys might think patchouli, you're very sensitive to it, and you cannot tolerate it. It smells awful. It smells like hippies, the 60s, I don't know, dirty, stinky, whatever. Those associations come to mind. Well, I have those kind of associations with cologne. In fact, I cannot get near cologne. And when I learned about the sensitivity to this note, I was trying to explore the fragrances that I was first sensitive to. I'm not going to name any fragrances right now, but I did research, and I noticed that the notes listed this particular note, this cologne note, C-A-L-O-N-E, not cologne, but cologne. And again, it's supposed to smell like watermelon, sea breeze, marine, aquatic, all of that stuff rolled into one. And they basically use it to make this aquatic kind of a fragrance. It's synthetic, of course. And so that's something I'm very, very sensitive to. But everybody has specific notes that they're sensitive to versus others. But this one I'm very sensitive to, and I kind of just stay away from it. Now, in little chunks, I can totally tolerate this particular note, but just increase it up, amp it up a little bit, and I'm like, whoa. I first discovered my sensitivity to this note way back in around 2013 or so. So since then, I've opened up to cologne a little bit, but still overusing it. And I'm like, no way, this is not for me. So I don't know what notes you guys are very sensitive to, but if you're sensitive to it, any specific notes, please put a comment down so that I can find out. Now, there are certain kind of notes that I'm not sensitive to at all. And this is not because I'm anosmic, because I can smell very well. I have a very, very strong sense of smell. But I feel like sometimes there's an example of something. For some odd reason, I use a dishwasher at the house, and after the dishwasher is done, and I use dishwashing soap, when it's opened up, and once this dishwasher smell hits the air, something about the smell of these dishes kind of turns me off. Like, the smell is so strong. But when that smell, you've left the dishwasher open, and the smell has kind of like settled, and my nose has gotten used to it, then I can't smell it anymore because I've adjusted to it. So there are situations where this kind of thing happens. You start off being very sensitive to it, and then your palate, kind of adjusts to it, and you're actually, swimming in it, and you're dealing with it because it's now become part of you, and it doesn't smell as strong. But when I first opened that fridge, it's fine for a few seconds. Then as soon as it hits the air, not sure what happens. I get very sensitive to it. It's a very, very strong smell. So now that I've washed the dishes in the dishwasher, I have to take them out and wash them again with real soap, not dishwashing soap, because the smell is so strong, so strong. But after a while, once it's touched the air and just settled a little bit, I've adjusted to it. So for some fragrances can be like that as well, ones that you're very, very sensitive to. And of course, this cologne note, I've gotten adjusted to it, and I, tolerate it now. But in little chunks, not in big chunks. One of the other things I want to mention is the whole coffee bean idea. When you're out smelling fragrances and there's a coffee, a cup of coffee beans, and you're smelling it so you can cleanse your palate, so you can actually smell more. Now, some people say that doesn't really work. I feel like if you take your nose and rub it on like a sweater that you have or a shirt, and you're kind of like changing the smell and cleansing your palate with what your shirt or your sweater smells like, then you can open up your palate to smell more fragrances. But if you're doing a full day of smelling, which I've done many times with friends, your nose does get tired. I mean, you do get really tired. It's exhausting to smell, and your nose has had enough and you can't tolerate anymore. But if you ever need to I guess have cleansing of your nose palate with like coffee or something, and there's no coffee around, you can always rub it on a like a sweater or a cloth or something, so that it kind of gets back, brings your nose back to normal. But I feel like olfactory fatigue happens all the time. I do like to take a break once in a while. Sometimes I only take a break for a day. Like sometimes when I'm hanging out at home, which I'm doing a lot these days, I don't put any fragrance on. In fact, if you want to take a break, don't even put anything scented on. Nothing. Just do it completely unscented. I mean, use unscented products even, so that you can kind of like just totally like rest your nose and open it up to smells. And again, as I said, I like to go to the coast and smell the sea, because I live on the coast, and we have very, very fresh sea breeze here, and I love to cleanse my palate with that smell, because I love the smell of the ocean or the bay. And of course we have nice green trees and the fog together, drippy, wet, breezy, sea breezy. All of that kind of really does cleanse my palate. Then when I come back and spray some fragrances, they're like really more intense. So I feel like a lot of people say that, oh, it's been reformulated, and it's because they've shot their nose with too much scent, and what they're smelling now is just because they need kind of like resting of their nose palate. They've gotten olfactory fatigue. Now, I'm not saying that brands are not reformulating their fragrances. In fact, a lot of designers are reformulating fragrances all the time. Now, I've gotten fragrances refilled at Louis Vuitton, and they're always giving me a batch code. So all those batch codes that you get means they've tweaked the fragrance, so they're going to be off a little bit. So they're doing it constantly. So all fragrances are being reformulated. It's just they're doing little bitty reformulations. So if you can't smell a fragrance, or it's smelling different, give your nose a break for a while and come back to it and see what you think. I feel like sometimes that's going to help and fix the problem that you're having with a fragrance. But maybe 1 or 2 times out of the times you do that, the fragrances are really changed and have been weakened. But I feel like most of the time you do need to give your nose a rest, so that you don't have olfactory fatigue or nose blindness. Anyway, I want to find out from you guys, have you experienced olfactory fatigue, and what have you done to get back on track and smell things the way you used to smell? And also, let me know what you're sensitive to. I mean, are you sensitive to anything specific? As far as notes go, as I said, I'm very sensitive to cologne. I'm sensitive to patchouli, and I'm sensitive to cumin. But with cologne, I have a very, very negative reaction. With the other two I just mentioned, I have a very positive reaction. And everything else falls in between, but there are some strange notes that I'm like very, very sensitive to, and I react negatively to. But that's the one I want to focus on today, is cologne. But you guys might have some things that you're sensitive to versus not sensitive to, and you experience things differently. And also let me know, do you experience anosmia or nose blindness? Let me know. Have you guys had a similar experience with these two fragrances? I mean, it's very, very obvious with those fragrances. A lot of people say they can't smell it. Some people can't. I mean, even fragrances like Juliet Has a Gun, not a perfume, people can't smell it. I actually still cannot smell the original Not a Perfume. It's very, very light. I don't have the bottles with me here today, or else I would have brought them out. But their new Superdose is so strong, like you can actually really smell that one. That one's the Ambroxan experience in synthetic fragrances. So let me know your experience with this particular scenario, and let me know which fragrances that you're really sensitive to, or which notes also you're really sensitive to, and ones that you are not sensitive to at all. Anyway guys, if you have any questions or comments, do list below, or you can also send me questions to LFSGQuestions. If there is a certain topic you want me to discuss or do a video about, I'd love to read those from you guys. Other than that, thanks so much for watching today. Staying safe, I hope, all of you. Let me know what you guys are doing to, you know, pass time at the house. I love to hear from you guys. All I'm doing is working. I work at home, and also I've been doing these videos, and it's keeping me very, very busy. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.